Hello everybody, welcome to the second C++ program. I'll be going really fast this time because I don't want to waste any of your time. Hope I won't go too fast and that you'll understand everything. I'll begin by typing our program. I'll just type everything and then I'll explain everything to you. Okay, like I explained in the previous tutorials, here's our header files and here's our main function header and here's our main function body. Now we can type our custom code into the main function body. I'll start by creating a virtual storage space where we can store our own data. Now in C++, like I explained in the previous tutorial, it's called variables. So I want to store an integer type variable, so I'll create a storage space of x. So our storage space is like a box labeled x, and inside the box we've stored a variable which in our case this time is 10. So the variable x contains 10, something called if function. Basically it goes like if and function. Now if function checks if whatever condition you put into the parenthesis, which is these brackets, is true. If it is true, it'll run whatever is inside its body. Now what do we want to check? We want to check if x is equal to 10. But in C++ you don't put a single equal to, because our conditional equal to is different from our assignment equal to, which is here. So we put a double equal to, which states that it's a conditional equal to, means it's checking, not actually assigning value of 10 to x. It's checking if x is equal to 10. Now is x equal to 10? Yes, which means it'll run whatever's inside the body, which is this area. So our if function header is true, which means it'll run our if function body. So what do we want to put in the body? In this case we want to just tell the user that you don't have to put exclamation mark, but just remember that it's a string constant and you need to put the quotes. It's all been explained in the previous video, you should check it out if you haven't. Now when we run the program, hopefully if there are no errors, it'll run. If you did notice the program just blinked, that's because it realized it has nothing else to do and then just closed. But if you want the program to wait on the screen, we'll give it another job to do. The job is to wait for us to strike a character on the keyboard. Now I'm going to explain what's just happened here. Now our main function, our program searches for our main function. It's found our main function. It'll run whatever's inside these parentheses, which is our main function body. Now the program starts by creating a virtual space which is x and stored 10 into that virtual space. Then it checks if what's stored inside the virtual space is actually 10, and in this case it is actually 10, which means that this header, if function header, is true and it runs whatever's inside the if function body, which is outputting the value of x is 10 exclamation mark. Now I hope you understood what if function does, and the only difference in this program, which wasn't there in the last program, is that it's actually staying on the screen, which is because it's now running this function, and as I strike the character on the keyboard, it closes because it has nothing else to do and our program has run successfully. Now if function can also go with an else statement, so which means that if this is not true, then you run what's inside the else body, and in this case the else body you can set it as cout and close it with semicolon, and again those quotes. Now when I run the program, in this case the value of x is 10, which means it's couting the value of x is 10, which is perfect, which is this, which means this statement is true and it's run this block. But if we change the value of 10 to suppose say 3, and now when I strike the character on the keyboard it closes, and when I run the program again, it'll realize that it's the value of x is not 10, and it'll go and run this else part of it, which is this block here. It'll output the value of x is not 10, which is perfect. Now you guys have understood if function, I hope. Now I'll move on to something called while loop, which is just like an if function, except it keeps on running whatever's inside the bracket until the condition is false. And in this case again it's a while function, which is this parenthesis, and it checks if whatever's inside the parenthesis condition is true. In this case we want to check if x is less than 10. Now it'll run cout. Now when a program runs, it assigns x to 3, means that x contains the integer 3. Now this condition says that if x is less than 10, in this case yes, 3 is less than 10, which means that this condition is true and it'll run whatever's inside the bracket. Now the difference between while and if condition is that while keeps on running whatever's inside this bracket until this statement ends up false. In this case this statement's never going to be false because 3 is always less than 10, so this will keep on running to infinity. Just to entertain you, I'm just going to show you what the output's going to look like. As you can see, the output's a complete mess. It's just outputting x is less than 10, x is less than 10, x is less than 10 so many times a second, and this is definitely not what we want. What we want is we want it to output x less than 10 times in different lines. So I'll set x as initial value to 0, and I want it to run from 0 to 10. So now every time it runs this while loop, I want to increase the value of x by 1, and we can do that by putting the x plus plus symbol, statement, which basically increments the value of x by 1. Now when we run this, it'll output x less than 10 times, but it looks like a complete mess. But to make it more neat, I'm gonna add an endl, which again is explained in the previous tutorial, and now it's put all the 10 in different lines. This is exactly what we want. Now I guess while loop is completely explained. Moving on to for loops. Unlike our while loop, a for loop has 3 parameters, and one parameter sets the initial value of your variable which we are using, and in this case I don't use x anymore, I want to use I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, and finally I plus plus. Basically this means it sets an initial value of I to 0, it sets an end condition of I, which in this case I should be less than 10, and it sets how much I should be incremented by. In this case we want to increment it by 1, which is I plus plus. Right now if you'll notice, we don't need the x anymore, so I'll remove the x, and when I run it, we'll get x is less than 10, but we don't want to set output x anymore, we want to output I, and we want to put an ender. Okay, now when we run the program, we should get 10 I is less than 10 in 10 different lines, which is perfect. You probably would have understood for loops. Now I can move on to more interesting stuff. I finally finished the boring introduction tutorials. I hope I didn't waste too much of your time in the process. But now I can finally show you what we can do with what we have learned. Anyway, if you like the video, please show me your support, subscribe, rate and comment. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.